All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. I know you all have other places that you could be, so we definitely appreciate you spending your time with us. I'm going to make a couple announcements, then I'll hand it over to tonight's speaker. I'm Eric Franca, the head of admissions at Promotable. Promotable's mission, we are a workforce accelerator that empowers and prepares professionals for high growth careers in the digital economy with courses in data analytics, Python programming, and product management. We do this through events like tonight's, where we invite practitioners from industry-leading companies. In addition, we host a series of workshops and classes. All of our classes are designed for working professionals, taught by practitioners like tonight's speaker, and only 5 hours per week. Our next classes start in August, so definitely check us out on our website. The data analytics class is for people that want to level up their data skills. Our next data analytics class, like I said, does start in August, beginning of August. This class is designed for analysts, managers, and anyone else who wants to level up their data skills. You don't have to have a data analytics or coding background. In this hands-on class, you'll learn skills you need to turn data into insights that solve business problems. You'll also learn to confidently navigate and manipulate large data sets and use technologies like SQL and Tableau to visualize and communicate your insights to stakeholders with powerful dashboards. Again, that's 5 hours per week for 8 weeks, and you can attend live online, of course. We also have a Python class coming up as well, so keep your eyes open for that. Check us out on social media. We have a Slack community of over 8,000 members. You'll all receive an invitation to the community where you can connect with other business and tech professionals, share resumes, best practices, and more. Definitely, since we're live streaming on LinkedIn right now, definitely subscribe to us on LinkedIn, and you can keep updated with everything that we're doing on there as well. And then our standard stuff like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook as well. Again, thanks for joining us for this evening. We just got a quick video, and then we'll introduce tonight's speaker.
Analytics play a crucial part in today's business world. People that have data skills have the best chance of career success. At Promotable, we help professionals take their careers to the next level. From analytics basics to more advanced tools such as SQL, Tableau, and Python. Promotable utilizes industry experts who focus on teaching in-demand skills that empower career opportunities, providing flexible class schedules to working professionals with the affordable training they need. Invest in your career and become Promotable. Promotable, data-driven career development. www.promotable.io.
Awesome. So tonight we have building and leveraging a data science portfolio with Sean Sullivan. So Sean, I will let you take it away here. Let me just unshare the screen and we'll get moving here.
Great. How's it going, everybody? I really appreciate the team to my husband, Jane. Are you guys able to see it? All right. So once again, thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'm very excited to speak on this topic. This is my first time talking about data science and looking at that down in a public setting, which is new to me, and I hope you're able to know just something insightful, maybe inspired. So again, my name is Sean Sullivan. I currently am a senior analyst in analytics at Plus Congress, which is a large business marketing firm here in Chicago. I am also a graduate student at DePaul University, where I am studying data science. I'm originally from the southwest side of Chicago. I'm a proud CPS and University of Illinois University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign graduate. And as you'll come to see, I really enjoy sports, the outdoors, and good food. You'll see some fun outdoor nature-themed pictures in this presentation. So to get into why I feel like I can talk about this topic, really, I think sheds a lot of light on from my background. I don't come from a traditional data science background. I didn't study engineering, computer science, statistics in undergraduate. I actually studied natural resources and environmental science, and I spent about 3 or so years working in wildlife research after graduating in 2014. And during that time, I got very interested in how the graduate students and government agencies that I worked for would use the data that we would collect and use it to then make suggestions about how a species should be managed, if a species needs to be considered endangered or whatever it may have been. I was fascinated that they could take the granular data that we were collecting on a daily basis and coming away with these bigger picture insights. And that is what led me to pursue a career in data science and analytics. And in 2018, when I made this decision to make a transition in my career, I determined that getting into the industry, for me, the way that made the most sense was pursuing a graduate degree. And then in 2019, I finally cracked into the analytics space at Spark Foundry. I leveraged my network to really get into that opportunity. And looking forward, I'm very excited to what is next. DePaul has really equipped me very well, in my opinion, to work within this space of data science and analytics. My current position is fantastic. I'm getting a lot of hands-on opportunities to work with data, to leverage it, to generate insights. But along the way, there were some things that I know that if I had done a little bit better, maybe I could have gotten here a little bit faster. And part of that is in using whatever you can to stand out. And for me, and everything that I'm seeing online through talking to my colleagues and classmates in my graduate program, portfolios are one of the best ways to show your work and to stand out amongst the crowd. Because if you think about it, you go on LinkedIn, you look at job postings, sometimes they show you how many applicants there are for the jobs. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, especially for some of the larger companies like Google, Facebook, etc. So how do you stand out? Well, a portfolio is a fantastic way to do that. It helps you stand out. It serves as a proof of concept, right? They're able to see that you can take a data set, explore the data, come up with key insights, and be able to communicate those things effectively. And in addition to that, if you're already in this space, you're thinking about data science and analytics as a career, this is a fun way to get additional practice. It can be really fun, as you'll see, if you take certain things that you're interested in and use that to focus as the focus of your portfolio projects. And again, it's great practice. You'll have opportunities of cleaning data, visualizing, doing some exploratory data analysis, trying multiple techniques, whatever it is. You'll come away with it, learning something new about yourself, and really, again, having a product that will be as a proof of concept and help you stand out to employers. So we kind of understand why a portfolio and having some projects behind you is important, right? But it can be a little overwhelming. So here are some things to consider when you're thinking about what sort of project you'd like to do next. Start off on the left. Pick an interesting data set. Don't do the iris data set. Don't do Titanic survival. And now there's like a new penguin classification data set that I've seen in a couple other places. Do something interesting. And if you're unsure of what that is, do something that's interesting to you. As an example, and you'll see later on, I'm fascinated with sports, with Major League Baseball, sabermetrics, things like that. I use every opportunity I can in my classwork or even just for fun to implement baseball data into my projects that I then showcase on my portfolio. So the next step is you want to perform an exploratory data analysis. You want to be able to show a potential employer, a colleague, whomever it is that you're showing your portfolio to, that you can understand how you need to approach the data before modeling. You can't just throw the raw data into a model. I mean, you could, but it's probably not going to be the best result. You want to show that you understand some of the relationships between the different features within a data set. And then next, you'd like to try multiple techniques. And by what I mean by that is, if you're doing a classification problem, consider trying decision trees, a random forest classifier, logistic regression, whatever it may be. Try a couple different techniques. It's not only good practice, but to also show, again, that you can do different things and compare them to try and get the best results for the data that's given. And these next 3 points, I think, are some of the most important. You want to be able to explain your thought process, document your code, and write up the results in a digestible format. So let's start at the beginning. For explaining your thought process, it's very important to explain how you went about cleaning the data. Why did you choose the models that you chose? Things like that. And for documenting your code, That's also very important because it's very likely that if you're trying to get a position within data science, you're going to be working on a team, and there's going to be code review, and other people are going to be dependent on your code. So you want to be able to show that you know how to write clean code. You can use comments to explain why you did what you did. And I think one of the most important things is writing up the results in a digestible format. You want to be able to show an employer, again, that you can communicate effectively. In some cases, all this is for naught if you're not able to get stakeholder buy-in. So practicing and honing that craft of communication, both written and verbal, is very important. And this is where I think seeking feedback really feeds into that. And by that I mean, you could ask some of your friends, perhaps if you have colleagues who work in data, perhaps you're in a program, you could ask your classmates, but also ask people who are not working in data or who are not as technically minded, if you will, because you're going to get two different opinions on, perhaps the technical crowd can give you more pinpointed critiques, whereas a layman, right, they can tell you if it made sense at all, and that's very important. And then lastly, take it a step further. And by that I mean, if you're still fairly new to the data science and analytics space, it's okay to focus on maybe more basic, more simple problems like a linear regression or a very simple decision tree, things like that. But if you're advanced and you're looking to take it to the next level, perhaps try an NLP problem, computer vision, heck, even deploy and productionize a model, things like that that help you really, truly stand out. So we've talked about why portfolios are important, and we talked about some things to consider. So just to get the wheels turning some more, I have a couple of examples of things that I've done. Now for me, I've really tried to practice my communication skills, and through that, I decided that making a blog where I do a quick, fun little short write-up of what I did, supplement it with some visualizations, and then also provide a link to a GitHub repository that I've created that hosts a Jupyter notebook of my Python code. So I'm able to communicate why I did what I did with the data, what the key insights were, have some visualizations to make it a little bit easier to understand. And then if someone really wants to see how I did it, then I give them that opportunity to do so through the GitHub repository. For a recent project that I did, again, I'm piggybacking off of my graduate school program where different classes have different projects that we do, and I try to always use baseball or sports or something that's interesting to me for these projects just to make it more fun so I'm a little bit more invested. And you'll see too that doing these projects also help kind of check some of the boxes off, right? So if you were to go and look right now at a machine learning engineer job posting or a data scientist job posting, I'd have to guess that you'd see neural network, Keras TensorFlow, things like that. And these projects start to help you check some of those boxes where you can say that you have experience with these things. So for this project, it was a neural network class. I created a neural network to predict the next pitch of an at-bat given the in-game situation for a particular pitcher. So you'll see I've got a list of pitcher names, the teams they're on, number of pitch types that they threw in 2019, and then how accurate the model was. And to take it a step further, I had been reading and reading on LinkedIn and other websites and watching a lot of YouTube videos on how to deploy and productionize a machine learning algorithm, write your code into some sort of interactive web app. And that, in that sense, I was able to, let me backtrack. So after watching these videos and reading these articles, I decided that I wanted to take this recent project that I just completed and take it a step up, right? I'd never productionized a model before. That's not what I do at work. And it was something that was very challenging, but I was able to watch some YouTube videos, read a couple articles online, and using Streamlit and Heroku, I was able to productionize my model, and now it's up online, and anybody can go and play with some of the settings to see what pitch is going to be the next pitch of an at-bat, which is really exciting, especially it looks like baseball might be coming back, both, fingers crossed, and you could go tomorrow and make your own predictions. So it's something that is user-friendly, and it helps stand out, right? I didn't just do my Jupyter Notebook code, I took it a step further, which is something that I really encourage you guys to do. And this is all, again, this is all accessible from my portfolio with links to these different things. So now that we've talked about some ideas, kind of getting the wheels turning, well, where can you host your blog? Where do you host your code? And more importantly, where are you getting data from? So for me, again, I'm a little biased. I think working on communication is very important, and a blog is a good way of doing that. And on top of that, they're free. Granted, you could pay for your own domain name, and that costs money, but base level Wix and WordPress are completely free. I use Wix, it's free. And I mentioned here too, and this goes into seeking feedback, share your work on social media and LinkedIn. I know it's very intimidating. I just recently got over that intimidation factor and started sharing some of my work on LinkedIn and Facebook with some friends and obviously professional connections within my network. And doing so opened up some really great criticism that I've been able to then go back, make some tweaks, or think about for projects that I'm going to be working on in the future. For hosting code, I think GitHub is one of the best places to do that. You can, some people may complain about just using your repository as a dump for Jupyter notebooks. That's okay. If you're a little bit more advanced and you know how to use Git and for version control and pushing to Git, things like that, do that. But if you're still in that beginning stage, that's okay. I think it's important that you're just getting your code up somewhere publicly accessible where someone could see it. And if you are a user of R Markdown is a good source as well. So now, where do you get your data from? It's likely that you're familiar with Kaggle, but if not, Kaggle is a great resource for that. They have tons of data sets on a variety of different topics. If you can't find a data set that interests you, then I would be very surprised because they have so many different topics and data sets. It's really fascinating. And on top of that, they also have competitions. So you can start to hone your skills of building really great predictive models with these data sets in a competitive format. And then also there's the University of California at Irvine Machine Learning Repository. It's one of the original data science data sets resources out there. They also have really great resources. And lastly, if you're savvy and you know how to scrape the web scraping is always an option as well. So some closing thoughts. I think it's really important that you use and expand your network and use this portfolio as a means of doing so. I mentioned that in my current position, I got through networking, and I'm sure many of you could say the same. And it's likely going to be the same for your next position or when you're trying to break into the data science and analytics space. And using a portfolio kind of as a tool to get your foot in the door somewhere or to get a conversation going with a hiring manager or a recruiter or whomever it may be, this is a really great tool for doing that because you'll have something interesting you could show them as a concept of what you can do. And it's just fantastic for kind of breaking that ice. And then the next step, right, is the internet is a powerful tool and you should use it. I mentioned that I was able to watch a couple of YouTube videos and read a couple articles online and then productionize my code and put it up onto a web app. You can do the same thing. It wasn't long ago that I was a beginner. I hadn't started my graduate program. I had never coded in Python. This was all brand new to me. But I'm confident that if you're here tonight, you're learning about a portfolio, learning about trying to make these changes and make these steps to get into a career that you want to be in, then you're partial to using the internet as a resource. So again, you guys can do it. I really believe in that. And in conclusion, I talk about networking. Let's connect. My email address is here. I'm on LinkedIn. You guys can definitely find me to search Sean Sullivan, DePaul University or Spark Foundry. And I also have links to my blog and portfolio there so that if you want to see what I've done, get some ideas, and I'll fully admit it's definitely not perfect, but it's a work in progress, and it's something I'm definitely open to talking about and receiving criticism if you want to comment on that. So that is all I had for this presentation. So I'll kick it back.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you very much for that. We'll just be waiting for a few minutes and let people throw some questions into the comments section on the LinkedIn Live feed here, and then we'll kind of go from there. I will start you off, Sean, with the first question that someone asked on here, which is just simply, Randolph asked, any suggestions on coming across, any suggestions on not coming across as begging for a job when you do cold outreach on your network?
Yeah, and I think one of the best things you could do if you cold reach out on LinkedIn or whatever it may be is try to ask questions about the person themselves, right? Ask them about, how did you get into this position? What sort of projects did you work on? What did you do to create that network? Instead of going to them with, hey, can you get me a job? I'm interested. Try to meet them halfway and learn about them. And not only does it show that you have an interest in them, but you might even learn something along the way as well. So I think it kind of serves two functions. And honestly, I think people are also a little bit more likely to talk to you if you try to ask them something about them, as opposed to, hey, how can you help me out?
Perfect. And then we have Kayvon asked, how do you showcase your portfolio projects on your resume?
Yeah, so I think that one of the best ways, well, there's probably two ways, right? You could, if you want, you can highlight it in a section on your resume. I would say that if you don't have as much professional experience within this setting, that's probably a really good idea, is to try and sacrifice perhaps some previous experience for sections where you highlight projects. And also you could hyperlink at the top where if you create a section like a header, right, it's got your name, your email address, your contact info. If there's room, maybe put your LinkedIn profile, a hyperlink to your website, whatever it may be. And even consider doing both if you can. I know there's a lot of opinions out there about how to create resumes effectively, but if you're new and you're trying to break into the field, I would really try to do almost anything to showcase that work, because it's likely that you're not coming from that background and they're not going to necessarily understand that, oh, you do know Python, you do know some machine learning algorithm techniques, you do know big data, whatever it is. You want that highlighted on your resume. So I would recommend consider putting it in a specific section.
Perfect. And then Gilbert asked if there was any deep readings that you would suggest for one to be more familiar with machine learning.
Yeah, I don't have any books off the top of my head, but any of the O'Reilly series that goes into more of the practical implementation of machine learning algorithms in Python is a great start. And then there's definitely resources out there. Like if you were to search, I can't remember the name of the book. I just had it for a previous class where you actually learn the math and everything behind the algorithms and then hand code them from scratch through this book. I could try and find that, but I don't have it off the top of my head right now. But I would definitely start again with the O'Reilly series. They're fantastic.
Sweet. And then we have Jaleel asked, let's see here, what are the best tech stack components to learn in order to build an effective portfolio?
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding that question correctly, I would think that it depends on what you have in mind for where you want to go professionally. If you're more interested in analytics, data science, like I am myself, I know there's other elements of that, such as like data engineering. I can only really speak more towards analytics and data science. I recommend Python, definitely R as well. For visualizations, maybe learn a little bit of Tableau, right? Because if you're an analyst or even a data scientist, you will very likely be doing some sort of dashboard work. So it's good just to start to familiarize with those things. Those are the primary tools that I would say. And another step too is, exploring the different IDEs, whether it's Spider, Jupyter, things like that, and what you're comfortable coding with, and just getting a feel for it. But that is what I would recommend.
Sweet. And then we have Chris just asked, R or Python, which would you suggest for a tenured professional with little programming experience?
Yeah, I'm biased. I know that this is a raging debate on the internet right now. I think both are great. I lean more Python just because that is that is what I was primarily learning in my graduate program, and that's also what I use at work. So I would say that for me, it made more sense for Python. I think if you're a little bit more interested in biostatistics and medical research, things like that, those sorts of industries are a little bit more partial to R. But yeah, I think I would recommend definitely getting familiar with both, because you don't really know which you'd end up actually working in. But if you're more set on learning one over the other, I would suggest Python, but that's just my personal preference and opinion.
Cool. And then we had another person ask if you could give some details on how you learned to productionize a model. This is something that this person's interested in breaking into. What were the best articles and YouTube channels that you can think of offhand?
Yeah, definitely. So I initially came across an article by, I can't pronounce his full name, but he goes by Data Doctor on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you look up the Data Doctor on YouTube, you'll find a variety of videos that he's done, and you'll see that it's even within the last couple of weeks. I initially saw it when he came out with his first iteration of the video, but now he has a series of 5 videos where he kind of takes it step by step and goes a little bit further each time, a little bit more complicated. But he does a fantastic job of breaking down how to use Streamlit for like the web API and then deploying through Heroku. And then additionally, I know that I'm asking you to navigate the web here, but if you find me on LinkedIn and go to my blog and follow the link to my GitHub repository, you'll see a README document where I included each of the resources, specifically several YouTube videos that I watched that helped me formulate my web app. So I wanted to make sure that if anybody else came across it and found my code, that they'd be able to then go back and use the same resources. So if you feel like navigating and trying to find that, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, look up Data Doctor. And then if you just Google how to deploy a model with Streamlit and Heroku, then I think you will be able to find many of the same YouTube videos and articles that I've found and used.
Sweet. And then we have a question from Genevieve, just asking, do you have any tips for building/working on your portfolio versus your full-time job and schoolwork?
Yeah. So it's obviously very difficult. You want to balance life, right, with school, work, personal life, things like that. Again, I'm very lucky where I'm able to kind of tie together some of my passions with my school projects. But I do find time, especially when I really have an idea and I'm itching to get at it, after work and on weekends to get into this. And I think that if you're trying to break into the field, and if you're just even trying to find a little bit of time to work on these things, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself to fully dive in. Maybe set aside an hour or two every couple of days, or maybe over the weekend, to really dive in and allow yourself time to make progress with these projects. It's very tough to balance with work and real life and everything else. But I think that it's like anything else, where if you make it a priority, even if it's just a little bit of time here and there, then you'll come to find that you're making good progress, and it will be less frustrating because you'll still be moving towards some sort of end goal.
All right. And then we had Lindsay ask, do you have different websites for different types of portfolios, or are they all on one website?
I just have it on one website. Yeah, it's just my Wix blog.
Perfect. And then Joseph just was wondering, can you speak to analytics versus machine learning?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that machine learning is a little bit more predictive, whereas analytics is a little bit more descriptive. It can definitely be a little bit of a bleeding, and it really depends on the company's definition of these two things. But in my experience, analytics has been a little bit more focused on understanding what happened and trying to get some insights out of that, whereas machine learning is taking what has been the data from historical data, right, to then use that to make predictions in the future.
Cool. And then Randolph was wondering, just to get a rough estimate, how long would you suggest to be the maximum amount of time to spend on a portfolio project?
That's a very tough question. I struggle with that myself, where I spend probably a little bit too much time. I would say that it's a cop-out answer, but it's really up to you. If you have a goal in mind, you know what? Let me backtrack. I just kind of changed my mind. I think that you obviously don't want to pour all your time into this. You want to have some balance in your life and be able to live a little bit. But I think employers, at least like if I was on a hiring team, I'd rather see 1 or 2 high quality projects versus 5, 6, 7 lower quality, where you could tell they just kind of breezed through it. They really didn't explore the data. They didn't really, communicate their thought process. So I would recommend spending more time and energy into 2, 3, 4 really good projects from top to bottom. I think that would be a better approach. And I can't tell you how much time to spend on that. That's different for each person. But do it to where you would be proud of showing this, and you would be willing to go to bat when asked during an interview, whatever it may be, that, hey, why did you do X, Y, and Z versus the other things? And then that way, you know that you've invested the time and the effort, and we'll be able to explain those reasonings.
All right. And then we had someone ask the best place to start or tips for those who are overwhelmed entering the analytics space because they feel like they're so far behind or kind of intimidated by others who know a lot more about this stuff.
Yeah. That was me 2 years ago. So I get it. I think that it's okay to start simple, start small, and build from there. If you're looking for a specific algorithm to explore, a good one would be linear regression. It can be very simple, where you're just using an independent and a dependent variable, or you can even do more independent variables, start to get a little bit more advanced with it. But start small, start with something that makes sense to you. I would certainly recommend seeking out different sources that are explaining these concepts in a digestible format, whether you're taking a class through Promotable or another online service. Start small and be kind to yourself, and know that a little bit of progress is totally fine. There's definitely a lot of great resources out there. Towards Data Science blogs on medium.com, I believe is what they're hosted through. If you Google these things, you'll find a lot of really great resources that explain it step by step. And again, there's so many resources also out there on YouTube, but I would really, really recommend start simple, start small, choose a data set that's interesting to you, that you can get excited about, and just be kind to yourself and know that it is a tough process. It's not a linear progression, and it's okay to struggle, because you're really going to learn a lot. You're going to grow, and you're going to look back in 2-3 years and be so surprised with how far you've come. So just be kind to yourself and know that you're going to get there.
Great. And then we had Gilbert was just asking, would you focus on getting AWS cloud certified as a data engineer, or prioritize focus on a portfolio, or vice versa?
I can't speak quite to that, because I'm not a data engineer, so I'm not as familiar with what would stand out more on a portfolio. But I would recommend that, one, if you're able to connect with a couple data engineers and understand some more of what is the sort of criteria that was looked for when they were hired, or if they were hiring somebody, what do they look for? And if you start to find out that an AWS certification holds a little bit more weight over a large portfolio, then maybe pursue that. But I would think, I can't speak to that. So I would recommend reaching out to those who know a little bit more about that specific question than I do.
Cool. And then we had some people asking how to find your GitHub repository, but I assume you just said that was through your LinkedIn. They can figure that out.
Yeah. If you find me on LinkedIn, you can click on my blog, which is highlighted on my profile. It's right below, I think, the bio about myself. And there's a portfolio tab where you don't have to read the blogs if you don't want to. you could just go to the portfolio tab, and we'll have hyperlinks out to the GitHub repository.
Sweet. So we'll grab a couple last questions here. We had Juliana asked, to what extent are open access platforms like Coursera valued by employers/graduate programs when attempting to break into data analytics? Context in the lens of a career change after obtaining an undergraduate degree.
Yeah, definitely. This was something that I also considered when I was making this change. The answer is there really is no clear answer, unfortunately. Some employers seem to be okay with them. Some employers don't value them as much. I think that if doing that sort of program helps give you the tools and the understanding to be able to reflect these skills, right, in these projects, in a portfolio, things like that, to actually be able to show an employer that you can do these things, then it's worth it. I know that it's tough. It's a big investment monetarily to dive into those things, especially amidst a career change. But I think the main thing is, if you believe in yourself and you believe that these will give you the skills to be able to show that you can do the work, then that's something that you should consider. And also know that it's no matter what you do, it's still going to be difficult, even if you were to go get another degree, or if you're doing a program online like through Coursera or another resource, that it's still going to be it's still going to be tough, but you can do it. So again, I preface everything by saying, if you think that it will get you the skills and experience needed to stand out and be able to show that you can do these things, then you should consider doing it.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you very much, Sean. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. And again, everyone, thank you very much for showing up and being here for this presentation and a little bit of a talk here. And remember to subscribe to us on LinkedIn, and definitely check us out on our website as well at promotable.io. Like you saw on the ticker, there's a bunch of classes coming up. So if you want to level up those data skills, and if you are in the context of changing a career or doing a career change, we're definitely a good spot to check out. So thanks again, Sean. We appreciate it, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.